Hey guys, JB here. The wolf is in the house, in the wolf's den. I am really excited because I have an awesome guest. It's someone I respect tremendously for a number of reasons. Short story, emigrated from Iran in the revolution, fled. I don't blame the fuck. And then served in the military, the 101st Airborne. Wow. All due respect. My man Patrick Bet David then came out, built a successful, big time entrepreneur and became famous from the, was it the 90 second?
Life of an Entrepreneur, 90 seconds. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So let's I have so much I want to ask you, right? First of all, about growing up in Iran. It's like one of these little black holes. Like I always say, like from my movie, I'm a household name everywhere, but Iran and North Korea, pretty much, right? But I think they actually know me in Iran, not North Korea. So first of all, what was it like? Do you remember? You were pretty young.
Absolutely. Yeah. Didn't you spoke in Iran like a year ago or something like that?
I was supposed to speak in Iran, and what happened was when Trump got elected, the whole dynamic changed, and the economy crashed, and I was this close.
Probably not a bad idea.
I know.
The fact that you stayed here. But yeah, I remember all of it. I remember living there. I was born October 1878. So revolution started in 78, and the Shah was in exile end of January 1979. So I lived there 10 years. I remember being bombed on 167 times on a single day. One of the stories I'll tell you is pretty wild. We're leaving Tehran. Tehran's the capital, right?
Wasn't it like an amazing place though? Like before?
Are you kidding me?
It was unbelievable,
in the 70s, you have Burma, Cuba, and Iran were the top 3 countries in the world for tourism.
Right.
Iran. Sinatra used to go there.
Wide open, unbelievable, beautiful women. The whole thing.
Yeah. The ambassador of Iran to U.S. dated Elizabeth Taylor. That should tell you something right there, like what it was like. So I was born, lived there 10 years. War happened, was pretty wild. And 6 weeks after Khomeini died, we escaped. We went to Germany, lived there for a couple of years at a refugee camp, right in Erlangen.
West Germany.
Ramstein
Air Force Base, that whole area?
Absolutely. It's so wild you're telling me that. So I was right next to a military base, and I would always sneak in. And one time we went a little bit too much. They were blowing stuff up, but it was like, you shouldn't be here. But we had a great time seeing these guys blowing stuff up. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I got inspired to go into the military later on.
So you were there when Khomeini was in power, right?
I was, yes.
So you were, how old were you when the Shah was deposed?
I was born.
So I
have no memories of Shah.
So you don't know Khomeini. Okay, so what was it like when you were like? Do you remember? Like, was there anything like? Did you feel oppressed there, or are you just too young? You're Christian, right? So you're not Muslim, right?
Yes.
Was it a problem for you being a Christian in a sect, in a very like sort of what sect is that of Muslim in Iran? Is it different sects or
yes, there are. There's Muslim, there's Baha'i, there's a lot of different ones. So by the way, Baha'i, they're not for Baha'i as well. Baha'i is almost like. How do I put it? Imagine like an LDS or Jehovah to Christianity.
Right.
Or how they look Christianity to Judaism, like how Jews look at Christianity. But yeah, I remember clearly you couldn't tell people you were Christian. People would ask me, what religion are you? You said, ask my dad. I don't know. That's what we were told. You tell people you don't know what religion you are.
So you were like a mix. So give me the whole family tree, because it's a crazy.
So mother's side, they're 100% communists. They believed in communism. Their Bible was Karl Marx. They swore by Karl Marx.
So, what was that?
So, it was this whole idea about the fact that rich people are greedy. All they care about is money. They put people to work, and, they sit at the top, cash the checks, big belly, and everybody else is doing the work. So they hated rich people passionately.
So basically, you're one of those people that when they say you develop the beliefs of your parents, you go the exact opposite way. You're the exact opposite.
That's right. I'm the exact. But my dad on the opposite side, he said, poor people are lazy. So my mom said rich people are greedy. My dad said poor people are lazy. And I'm in the middle. By the way, all the debates they had, no debate you've ever seen on television comes close to the debates my mom and dad had. It was flying plates and things breaking. It was entertaining at its best.
You know what they say, like I know a lot about. So I have a great story. So I dated a Russian girl back, many years ago, famous Russian, who's the first Miss Soviet Union. You know who her boyfriend was before me? Cyrus Pahlavi. It was the Shah's grandson.
Come on.
I swear to God. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she was engaged to him. And then
what year was this?
This is 2000. So the late 99, 2000. We were together 3 years, hated each other. Somehow we made it 3 years, God knows how. Okay. But, the whole thing with Russia was like, they'd say communism, like, we'll keep pretending to work if you keep pretending to pay me with worthless rubles.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the whole lack of work, no motivation, stress. Like you're not really, if you can't achieve anything on the communism, right? So your mother was basically the idea that everyone should be equal, workers of the world unite, right? And your dad was like, fuck it, I don't like lazy people. I want to
100%. I mean, you said it best, just like that. 100%. Clash of ideas there.
And did they stay married?
Absolutely not. They got divorced twice. They got divorced after my sister was 2 years old, and they got remarried. Then I was born, and then they got divorced 20 years later.
I don't get that. So, like, I've been married a few times. How the fuck could you marry the same woman again after she tortures you, or vice versa, right? I mean, wow. It's like a love-hate relationship.
Well,
right?
in the Middle Eastern culture, it's the guilt aspect of it. It's guilt. I can't believe you did this to her. I can't believe you're leaving her stranded. So the guilt gets in, and you say, you know what? Maybe I'm going to try this one more time.
Right, listen, let's take a short break here. I got to go to keep the lights going here.
Let's do it.
Pay for everything here, and then we'll come back in a minute, and we'll keep going, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, ready? Talk about the perfect message to market match and the best sponsor ever for BlueChew. You know what BlueChew is? Ready for this? Viagra tablets that you can actually chew. Not quite gum, thank God. That would be gross, right? But these are chewable Viagra. Boom, hits you like a ton of bricks right away. See, here's the problem with Viagra. When it first came out, it was like 96 or 7, right? First time I saw it, at least, right? Greatest thing ever, but you had to be on an empty stomach, take it like an hour before. Who the fuck wants to do that? You never know when you're ready to get lucky, right? So, and obviously back in the day, it was pretty wild. So it was hard to use, right? Well, BlueChew, here's the deal. Same exact active ingredient, but this you could take right before you want to have sex. Full stomach, empty stomach, doesn't matter. This shit is powerful, guys. I mean, I'm not, listen, the DEA could use your dick as a fucking battering ram to knock down a crack house door. How about that? Is that a good analogy? I'm not kidding you. You want to teach someone a lesson, show them who's boss? This is it. Or maybe you're worried about performance anxiety, right? Yeah, listen, not me, of course, but as a guy, you're pumped up, you feel good, you go out there, you're all virile, right? And then something happens. You get like a kernel of a bad thought, and it's fucking like limp spaghetti, and it kind of sucks, right? Ready? You could be thinking of your grandma with BlueChew. You could be thinking of the worst thought ever, the most unattractive. You can't. It's like boing. It's like it's literally. It's like it's fucking magic. All right, and not just for 1 round, for 2 rounds, 3 rounds. You can go multiple rounds. All right, I'm just telling you. I remember when it first came out before Viagra, because you gotta love the concept, right? And I'll tell you some distinctions here after. But I remember I was with this girl. She was like a Russian girl. Teach her a lesson, right? And before the first one, I said, I'm taking a double dose, right? She was like, oh my God, you want the best. I'm like, there you go. It was downhill from there. Anyway, point being though, the problem was you had to plan this shit out. It's 2 hours before, no food. This is so convenient. Put it in your mouth, chew on it, bam, boing. It's like that cartoon character, right? So there you go. BlueChew, it's awesome stuff. I promise you, and get ready for this. Price. How about free? Free offer here. They're so confident you're going to love it. They'll give you the first offer for free. So, just pay $5 shipping and handling, and you get a bunch of pills. It's, do the math there, and those erections. Those are really fucking cheap erections, right? Let me give you the exact language here. Here's a great deal for you guys. Visit BlueChew, BlueChew.com. All right? Get your first order for free with the promo code WOLF. $5 shipping and handling, that's all you pay. All right? That's BlueChew.com, promo code WOLF. Guys, 1 point before I sign off here. Ready? I made the fatal mistake once of buying Viagra online. Not that I needed it, because of course I don't need it, but I figured why not have it around, right? Just in case, right? I'm nervous, right? I bought it from an online pharmacy. You know what showed up? Chinese Viagra. All right? And it's pretty fucking embarrassing when you take Viagra and you still can't get hard. What do you say then? Like, are you the weakest, most least virile person in the world, right? This is made in the U.S. of A. You get it, and it gets prescribed to you by a real doctor. Phone consultation. Shows up at your house without any fanfare, nondescript packaging, so there's no embarrassment. I think it's a fucking bad job. I don't take BlueChew, but that's just me, right? So, but nothing to be embarrassed about here. And lastly, the fucking Indians. Man, I love Indians, but dots, not feathers. They never stopped fucking calling my house because they had my number now because I had to pay for the shit and get it, online. Terrible. This is professional. You're dealing with the best people. That's what BlueChew's all about. USA, so you're getting the best stuff with a real doctor and having some fucking serious memories as a result, all right? BlueChew.com. Don't forget to enter Wolf because it costs you nothing. Take care. All right, we're back. Okay, awesome.
And-
so did the second time a charm or no?
Absolutely not. Oh
More
my
broken
God.
plates?
Let me put it to you this way. When they got a divorce, it was 89, 90 when my dad served the divorce paperwork. While we were in Germany at the refugee camp, my dad was in U.S. He served my mom the divorce paperwork. While we're there and my mom got the divorce paperwork, my parents were in the same room for 20 years. They would not be in the same room for 20 years. So I'm getting married. And both of them are expecting to come to my wedding. I said, you guys, what makes you think you're coming to the wedding? They said, no, we're coming to your wedding. I said, I'm not doing this. I said, here's how we're going to do it. I need you to come to my apartment complex. This is years ago. I said, I need you to come to my place. You two need to sit together, talk to one another, and then you'll come to the wedding. Then you get the invitation.
Right.
And they said, we're not doing this. I said, then that's no problem. You don't need to come to the wedding. So then they called back. They said, we'll do it. They came to my house. It was the most awkward hour and a half of them sitting there. But I said, as long as you guys are good, then they came to the wedding. So 20 years.
Wow. All right. So, so you had this like sort of yin yang, right? And then when did you come to the United States?
November 28, 1990.
Okay. And so how old were you then? You were
12.
12 years old, right?
12 years old.
And where'd you settle?
Granada Hills, California.
Okay.
So about an hour and a half from here.
And so how was your English? Your English is obviously flawless now. So how, by the time you got here, did you speak English well from being in West Germany, or you still struggle with it?
I took EFL, which is English as my fifth language, because we got Armenian, Assyrian, Farsi, German, English. So
your first is Farsi, right?
First is probably Armenian, Assyrian, because that's what my parents spoke.
Right.
And then it's Farsi because it's the country I lived in. Then it's Germany. Then it's English. Yeah.
All right, so how proficient though was your English though
was it not at all? Not
so it was
good.
tough when you got here.
I mean, listen, Wednesday, right? Remember Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
I went to school. They said, so what kind of shows you watch? Gilligan's Island. It's not silent. Government.
English by the way, is a tough language, right? It's not like because it's a lot of silent letters.
Well, listen, it's not
phonetic.
Like Assyrian. When you hear Assyrian speak, you literally think people are fighting with each other. Move out, all this, it's not the most attractive. Sometimes you wonder how Assyrians talk dirty to their girls,
So are you married now?
I am married now.
How long are you married for?
Next week will be 10 years.
Me too, 10 years as well. Yeah, same woman, almost 11 years.
Yeah, I met your wife last year.
She's awesome.
That's
cool. And kids?
3 kids.
3 kids.
7, 5, and a 3-year-old. 2 boys, and the youngest is a girl.
All right, so let's take this in order now, right? So, so you come here, you're 12 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
No money, family, right? No one's got money, right? You're just getting started. You're in Granada Hills. You have to learn the language, right? So what did you do? Did you always have this sort of entrepreneurial streak where you're like, didn't matter, you're a whatever it takes guy? And so, how did you transform from that to who you are today?
You know what's crazy is, when I was 11 years old in Germany, I'm at this refugee camp, and this one family comes in, a Czechoslovakian family. Last name is Staff. The son's name is Jan. The daughter's name is Katarina. Katarina was drop dead gorgeous. She was 10, I was 11.
I knew that somehow.
Yes, she's 10, I'm 11.
Right.
And I'm looking at this girl. I'm like, I like this girl. So I find out Jan likes the Super Nintendo, okay? So I said, okay, I'm not a big fan of the Super Nintendo, but I'm a fan of your sister. So we got to figure something out. So that summer, I went to the local swimming pool in Germany, in Erlangen. And Germany, they drink a lot of beer.
Uh-huh.
I said, look, there's a lot of beer bottles here. If I collect these beer bottles for you and I bring it to you, what are you going to give me? He says, I'll give you 5 pfennig. So the owner and I brokered the deal at 11 years old. I calculated how many bottles I needed, which was 5,000. I brought the bottles to him. He gave me 250 marks. I went to Kaufhof. I bought the Super Nintendo. I brought it back to the refugee camp. Jan played Super Nintendo. I played with his sister. So
it's amazing what
women have so much power, right? Never changes. But I would tell you, in school, I was a 1.8 GPA kid. I worked. I was always tall, so I lied on my age, and I was working and telling them I was 16, 17. My first job was at Haagen-Dazs as a 14-year-old kid. So always trying to find a way to make money.
Right. And when did you have your first real working? I guess up to the age I was always an entrepreneur myself, right? But I never really excelled the jumps that drove me crazy to work for an hourly wage. But when did you have your first entrepreneurial experience where you realized that hey, I could be in business for myself, even something stupid like a lemonade stand? Did you have anything that was the first anchor experience for you?
So I went to school with 2 backpacks. One of them was books. The other one was hats I would buy from a 99-cent store. And these hats I bought, sports teams were teams that were terrible. So like the Clippers at the time, San Jose Sharks, the Mighty Ducks. No one's gonna follow these guys. But I would buy the starter hats for 99 cents and I would sell them for $7. And finally, my principal caught me and they said, why do you come to school with 2 backpacks? But your GPA doesn't reflect the kid that would come to school with 2 backpacks.
So what year was this now?
This is 1994.
The Clippers sucked, right?
Clippers sucked back then. They had Danny Manning. They couldn't make the playoffs. They needed me to play for their teams and I have no clue how to play basketball.
So wait, so all right, so that by the way doesn't surprise me, right? That you were buying hats for $1, 99 cents. I mean, I did that on the beach with ISIS, right? I mean, this class. So you were how old at that time?
1994, 15, 16 years old.
So like, for me, I'll tell you this. I had an experience when I was 16 years old. I went down to the beach. I think you probably know the story, right? And I started selling ISIS blanket to blanket. And the first day, like I made $100 in cash. And back then, I think minimum wage is $1.25. I mean, it changed my life in terms of, what everything I thought about money, hard work. And, it really was the beginning. I had stuff before that, but that was the foundation for who I was. Because that feeling like when you you do something and it works and you get a pile and you're like, fuck, man. You're like, So is that how you felt? Like when you, did you have did you make money doing that? What was the most you ever made with the hats?
Listen, $100 there was a lot of money.
Massive.
You have $100, you're like, are you kidding me? I made $100 today.
Dude, so what was the year again? I'm sorry, what you said it was what?
95.
Okay, so yeah, that's like 250 today probably, or but also you're a kid.
And it's cash, and it's no taxes, right. And you're a kid, and you're like, wait a minute, I can go buy baseball cards, I can go buy basketball cards.
The best part for me was that the beach money was in fucking singles. So it was like $500 was like this big.
Yes.
It's like more better than like $500 bills. Right?
This is what beach, by the way?
Jones Beach in New York.
Okay, got it.
So I was a vendor there, and I put myself through school like that. It wasn't the money; it was just the experience of And I hired 3 kids to work for me that sold puka shells. I had a whole freaking thing going. But let's talk about you. So you start with the hats, right? You have this experience. You're starting to make money. You have a girlfriend. In this point?
Yeah, I was not, no, I didn't have a girlfriend at that point. At 96, I had a girlfriend, but not at 95.
So you're making money though, and you feel
I
good.
am making money. Oh yeah.
And with this point now, so I could only imagine, you show up speaking different language, right? Were the kids nice to you, or did they resent you? Did they,
I would say it's more making fun of you is what it was. The whole you're a phobe, fob, fresh off the boat. You don't know how to pronounce the language. You had a lot of.
Was it cruel, or you're a big guy, right? So I think people be scared.
Yeah.
But was it sort of was it fun? Like they were nice about it? Were they assholes?
No, absolutely.
Kids can be assholes.
You get all of them.
Yeah.
You get all, for me, I look at it in a different way, man. I think a little bit of bullying is good for you. I think to get bullied a little bit is, at least for me, when I study the guys that make it to the top, somebody bullied them at some point. And they have a memory of that person or a chip or something. Whether it's an older brother, older sibling, a friend, a coach, a strong father, a cousin, somebody was a little bit bullied. It could be with words. It could be with a lot of different things.
So it's interesting you take, because it's funny. I hate bullies. And I think as adults we all hate bullies. And probably when you're an airborne ranger, you probably would fucking kick the shit out of any bully you saw.
No
right?
doubt about it. Yeah.
So I guess you're saying with it up to a point, right? It crosses over to when it gets really destructive to someone. But I think what you're saying is a little bit of in a sense of having to sort of deal with the world's not a perfect place. People are going to be assholes, and sort of develop a little muscle, and a bit of armor is not the end of the world.
Yeah. So you got to realize no one gets bullied more today in the world than the president.
Right. Oh my God.
Okay. So you see, there is nobody that gets bullied more. So
disgusting.
So here's a rule that we have in our family. When I sit at night and I talk to my boys, my 5-year-old and my 7-year-old, I ask them, what do we do as a family? Lead, respect, improve, love. Okay, great. I said, what do we pray for? If you pray, what do you pray for? Courage, wisdom, tolerance, understanding. Great. I said, do we bully? No. Do we get bullied? No. Let me tell you a story what happened here. A month and a half ago, my wife calls me. She says, hey, babe, Patrick just got kicked out of soccer practice. I said, for what? Says he punched a kid in the face. I said, what do you mean punch a kid in the face? He punched a kid in the face. I said, come on. I'm telling you, baby, you're on speaker. Talk to him. So I said, Tico, did you really punch a kid in the face? I did, Daddy. I did punch him in the face. Why'd you punch him in the face? Because he punched me first in the stomach. So I just did what you told me to do. I don't want to get bullied.
I'm all for that.
So I called the school. I called it a practice facility. And I said, listen,
self-defense.
What happened here? And they said, well, your son punched the kid in the face. And that's why we kicked him out. I said, you guys watch a videotape. He says, no. I said, I need you to watch a videotape because you just kicked my kid out of practice. If he didn't do it, I want to get some word on it. So they called me back. They said, we apologize. Your son got punched first, then he reacted.
There you go.
So that part of it to me is you got to be strong here because if you're not, people will bully you, especially in the business world. When you're coming up, you're going to be bullied.
No doubt about it. I guess for me, I was fortunate. I wasn't really bullied as a kid, but I know some kids that were, and it's like, you're right. You can't be a pussy. You got to be able to, stand up for yourself, but kids can be fucking cruel sometimes, So I think there's got to be some
adults, by the way.
Yeah, much worse, especially girls.
Yes,
I had a daughter, and she was a pretty girl, and she had a really tough year with like other
with you or with the boys.
With other girls not liking her. They're vicious, right? So and she and actually. And interesting enough, it changed up for the better. So, valid point you made. I think she realized that it was a shift for her, that there was a lot more to her than the way she looked. She started focusing on her studies. Now she just graduated from NYU grad school.
Come on.
Summa cum laude. Yeah. So I think your point's well taken. I guess the only thing is if it crosses a line, then it's I don't think it's good, but a little bit of you can't go through life and slide through the raindrops.
Yeah,
right?
I'll give you an idea. When I was in the military, okay, if you can't handle sarcasm, military's not for you. Everything was about sarcasm. Everybody would just poke you. All the drill sergeant.
Right.
Hey, you got a girl back at home? I do. Guess what she's doing right now? What's she doing right now?
She's banging Jose.
Yeah, she's banging Jose. Who's your best friend?
Right.
He would never do that. She's on top of him right now.
Right.
She's not even screaming your name. She's screaming
she's
his
moaning,
name.
right?
Yeah, she's moaning. So this was mental and emotional torture. And so you saw that and you watch your peers. You're like, oh my gosh, he can't handle that. He cracked. He broke. And a big part of life is a tryout to see if you can stay strong during these times to get to the next. I firmly believe that because you go into business. When you go into business, nobody liked you. You're like, hey, what are you doing in New York? Who is this guy coming up? We don't like somebody coming up this quickly, so someone's going to try to bully you.
No doubt. For me, by the way, when I was approached by the mob a bunch of times, and I had private security forces and stuff back then, but I think the one thing I had going for me is that, of course, I was under investigation. They're fucking scared to get involved because then they would would draw attention to them. But they were on Wall Street back in the day. They were pretty active, trying to muscle their way into firms and and so on and so forth.
They were coming to you.
Oh yeah, more than once. Yeah,
trying to muscle you.
To come in and because listen, if you think about it, what I was doing was the perfect money laundering machine for the mob because I could essentially make anyone money in a stock trade and have them give me back cash. You could actually legitimize cash through stock. And that happens a lot on Wall Street. So, I don't know if it happens as much now because of, it's just more difficult with computers and stuff. But back in the day, the 60s and before I was even there, I heard stories where like there was so much theft of stock certificates, and she was just like the fucking Wild West. You wouldn't even believe it, right?
Now this is not just penny stocks. This is stocks, period.
Everything, the whole market before. So back in the '60s, believe it or not, it was no electronic transfers of securities. If you bought and sold stocks, people fucking run across the street with physical certificates, and I think they would say that if you actually looked to see where the certificates, they weren't really there. Like a lot of shit was being stolen and laundered and stuff. So that was back. Then it all changed in the 70s. Everything went, it was, I think it was one day where everything went electronic and a lot of shit was uncovered. But anyway, so yeah, I did have pressure at some points. I had a private security guy, sort of that I had hired that kind of intervened, but eventually I was under investigation. So they were scared to get, you don't get involved with me.
How was it for you in the streets at that time? Like when you go to a restaurant, how was when you were coming up, how did the streets treat you? Like when other brokers saw you from Morgan, Merrill, other places?
Well, I was treated well by them because in the sense that I was like an enigma in that, boiler room, right?
Sure.
That was not accurate. Like that was guy worked for me, and it wasn't really accurate in the sense that my guys would go to a place and get sneered. It wasn't really like that so much. I don't think they went to the city that much, by the way. But it was really, for me, it was more like I was a huge spender, big spender. And I had a lot of friends at the bigger firms. So there wasn't like a lack of respect as much of a lack of understanding.
You spent on them at the big firms?
No. That's what
They
I was
did
going.
not.
I was going out into the city a
Yeah.
lot, right? And we'd have big tables and hookers and drugs and insanity. Like at the movie, it was like almost an underestimate of what happened, right? So the word spread all over Wall Street. I was well known. And I was well liked, and no one resented it. It was like sort of, there was no real clash of worlds, so to speak. It was more like an enigma. That guy's out of his fucking mind. I was like, I mean, look, dude, my drug addiction was, I mean, you can't, have you ever been, I don't think you've been, have you ever had a drug problem?
No.
No. So, for a bunch of years there, I was like just fucking wild. You know what I'm saying? So
Was that known though in New York?
Oh, yeah.
So they knew you
Dude.
partied hard.
Dude, I would go to, it was a restaurant. So it was a famous restaurateur. It was a friend of mine, still Mark Packer. Right, he owns Tao and he's very successful. Right, he had a restaurant called Canistell's back in the day, which is the fucking place to be. Right,
In New York.
in New York
Okay.
on 19th and Park. Okay, and it was a great place, great looking crowd. He was an awesome dude, and I would go to Canistell's and like be 4 ludes deep. And just like bouncing off the fucking walls, and my bodyguard. No, do you know Chuck Zito, the head of the Hells Angels? He was my bodyguard. So he'd follow me around, and so no fuck with me. But I was just out of my fucking mind, And then it all made sense back then. I got sober. I was like, the fuck am I doing? Like, I look back, holy shit.
How long was that about? The whole
10
run?
years?
10 years.
It's heavy, massive drug use for about 8 solid years of just massive Quaalude use and about 3 years of heavy cocaine use, right? And that's sort of like, it just, let's say, like, cocaine doesn't really suit well with me. It turns me into an animal. Like, I do terrible things. It makes me into a different, I don't want to get so sexual here, but just say it brings out my perversions like most men, makes us into fucking beasts of, whatever we are, right? You brought up one point I want to focus. You mentioned Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you pro-Trump? It sounds like you're pro-Trump.
I'm pro-economy the way he's running the economy. Absolutely.
So I agree. So I would think that basically I could not agree more with his economic policies, right? And on some level, I'm bothered by some stuff he does. But all things being equal, I think that the alternative would have been disastrous. So did you vote for him, by the way? Or you mind me asking?
No, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
You did?
Because what's the alternative?
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, you got to realize I voted for Bill Clinton.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I voted for Bill Clinton. But for me, I'm sitting there saying, okay, what are we going to do here?
Okay. So you mentioned Bill Clinton, who I fucking loved, by the way. You know what I loved about Bill Clinton?
Me.
He had charisma like no one's business. This guy could fucking lie to you. I did not have sex. Yes, Mr. President. Like, I didn't like who he fucked. I think he could have done better. I was embarrassed. I said,
I'm sure he had done better.
I agree.
times.
But like, I kind of said, come on.
Yeah.
Nothing against Monica, but just fuck, look at, the French don't respect us for that shit. I mean, you should be fucking a runway model. You're the president of the United States, goddammit. Like Kennedy, look at Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe. What was he? He's a good looking guy back then. He's a little old now, but come on. And I mean, the thing with Clinton though, is that he would have this ability that he would look at you and speak to you like he cares. He feels.
Yeah.
You
remember that one debate with him and George Bush Sr. when the lady asked a question about debt and she says, "I understand. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your work, what you're going through."
That's a gift, buddy.
And that was it. It was over.
And George Bush lacked that completely. Because I remember I was actually very active back then in the Republican Party, and I was part of this thing, like a Republican Eagle giving money, and I was actually sending them, like, there's no email back then, letters saying, Bush he's got to change his approach.
Charisma, yeah.
He's not like getting his point, because this guy had just won the Iraq War, basically, right? And the Desert Storm it was, right? And like he rallied the whole world, formed this coalition, and like he wasn't that like he was very popular, and then he couldn't, and the economy kind of sucked back then, and he couldn't get that same emotional message across, like in the same way that I rallied the world. And Clinton could do that, and that's why he got elected. And I love Clinton. I agree with you. He was awesome.
One of the things I liked about Clinton, this is the one thing I will tell you about Clinton. He was willing to work with Gingrich at that time, which is what made him special.
Right.
See, the whole thing about if these guys can go in the locker room together and sit down and say, look, what's the issue? What do you want? What do we got to do with the economy? And look what happened to the economy. So people were happy when he was.
It was a great economy.
I'll tell you a story. My father-in-law, when he passed away, I went to Arkansas for his funeral. I went to a funeral home. It was called Brazil. This is out of Hope, Arkansas. So I go in there and I said, look, we were driving around. Oh, this is the middle school that Bill Clinton went to. This is the place he lived. This is the house he grew up in. You're seeing this stuff with Bill Clinton. So I asked the guys, how long you guys been here? So we've been here for about 67 years. I said, okay, cool. I said, let me ask you a question. How was Bill seen in the city? He says, everybody loved him.
Yeah.
Seriously. He said, everybody loved him.
Guy.
He said, this guy won the cutest kid contest. He won this, he won that. He was music. He was loved by everybody. I said, was he a womanizer? He said, of course he was a womanizer. I said, did it bother you? He said, not at all. I said, tell me why. Here, listen to his answer. I said, tell me why it didn't bother you. He says, have you ever met Hillary? That's his answer.
Dude, I am not a fan of Hillary.
He said, have you ever met Hillary? I said, never met her. He says, if you meet her, you would know why. Because she drove him away so many times. And these are stories you hear about so regularly.
I think there was an arrangement there. I don't think she was, I don't know. I'm not a fan. But, what's really interesting is that I think it's what pisses me off is this whole shit with impeach Trump or not. I'd be just as angry with Clinton. That was bullshit. Who cares about Monica Lewinski? So it's like, it's not this whole thing with like politics has got so dirty now, right? And Republican, Democrat, it's just, my big concern is like, there's no fucking progress. It's like it's all about trying to drag the other guy down.
Who's causing that? Who do you think is causing that?
I think the left is fucking loony. They've gone loony, okay? I think they've gone loony. And I think that the problem is that it's mostly about identity politics. I think this is what you're seeing right now is the culmination of years of insidiousness of this sort of liberal and this sort of political correctness creeping its way into the institutions like universities. I saw what it did to my own kids, how they almost get brainwashed into a very liberal way with, safe spaces and all this fucking nonsense.
Would they call you when she was at NYU? Was she calling you kind of saying, Dad, I don't know if I agree with such and such?
My daughter's, she's amazing because my daughter is a liberal, but she's healthy. She's one that she's completely, see, there's nothing wrong. I really love liberals. There's nothing wrong being, I'm socially as liberal as they come.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fiscally conservative, socially liberal, right?
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, which is most, I think, enlightened people are, right? I don't believe in the victim bullshit, but I think people should do whatever the fuck they want with their person. Love who you want, and especially the gay thing. I think it's disgusting. I mean, like, I went to this movie, Elton John. Did you see that?
Oh my gosh, what a phenomenal
How great was that movie?
What a great movie.
And I'll tell you what, I know it's a movie they exaggerate to make, but I felt like about the whole gay issue, I was like, fuck, how could they, not let someone love like his mother? Like, just, I know it's a movie, but like, just, it's disgusting. I think people should love who they want to love. Everyone should have the right to have a happy life. You don't hurt anybody else, and you can't force it on other people to, but let people, it's just ridiculous, right? So, I mean, that aspect, I'm socially liberal. My daughter is one of those people who completely can talk about it in a healthy, logical way. The problem is that with the liberals that are nuts now, it's like emotion trumps logic. Trumps, right? Like Trump the right.
Yeah.
But it's not, you can't have a rational, logical conversation with them because it's about identity politics. It's about issues like, they think they're right. Like almost like the ends justifies the means. And as soon as someone thinks that, everything goes out the window. Ethics fly out the window. Integrity flies out the window. Like even look what happened with Comey. Like things. That I'm sure that whatever happened, I know a lot of bad shit happened. It seems pretty obvious to me. But at the time, I'm sure they thought they were justified. They had their moral compass they were so sure they were right that doesn't matter what I do because I'm on the, and that's what I think a lot of the problem is. And then taking it to what's happening with liberals in office right now, I think that they're going so far left right now that it's just crazy, like almost like with Kavanaugh, like the Supreme Court always self-corrects. It never gets too crazy either way. You see, liberals will vote for conservative and vice versa to even things out. It's a history of doing that, right? But I think this political correctness, I think, is the fucking death of the country.
I agree with you.
And not being able to say what the fuck is on your mind and things like safe spaces and snowflakes. Fuck. I mean, honestly, to me, that's the toxic part of it all.
But I tell you one thing. I think like this whole AOC thing, she's confused everybody. By the way, she has confused Democrats. Here, AOC, this may sound confusing to a lot of people if they listen. AOC may be the best thing that happened to Donald Trump. Let me say that one more time. AOC may be the best campaign manager for Donald Trump. Here's why. Because she has gone so far left that Democrats, and she's got a better way of communicating than anybody else on the left, she's forcing a lot of Democrats to go there. And if they go there, independents are not willing to go there. Right. And that's where the vote is. And that's going to go on the other opposite side.
I totally agree. So here's my take on her, right? interestingly enough, all right, sometimes like, she first came and I'm like, wow, that's just some special type of stupid going on there. Because she said some shit that was just ridiculous. I mean, just really making faux pas after faux pas, stupid statement after stupid. But in truth, though, she does say some things that are some things she says are smart, like when she asks for caps on credit card rates. So she's not all nuts. But her philosophy is fucking nuts. Like, this whole idea of socialism. I mean, as well, it's never going to happen, but it's a toxic way of thinking. And this whole idea that, I mean, like, listen, that, and these people that are on the board that come legally are now in concentration camps. That type of
the world is ending in 12 years.
That's
all
the big one, right?
Yeah, the world is ending. But she does say a few things. The one thing I will tell you, going back to what you said, so the question I was going to ask you was a follow-up. I'm curious to know what you think about this. When the first time the debate was between Nixon and Kennedy, Nixon froze, Kennedy didn't, and he became,
right.
Everybody's like, oh my God, this guy's more president. But before that, we didn't debate that way. It was radio.
Right.
So TV changed the game for who can communicate better, which is why Bill Clinton became president, or else George Bush Sr., director of CIA with the kind of a resume you got. Are you kidding me?
1,000%.
There's no way in the world the governor of Arkansas would have beaten him if it was just stacked up resumes. Who goes against who, right? So do you think the current way of social media marketing, access to what we have, the way we see videos on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, do you think whoever delivers the message better wins? Do you think that talent plays a very big role today into becoming a president?
I think Obama proved that the power of social media mobilizing voters, and he did a really great job of that while Romney didn't, right? That was a big deal, right? I think Obama did a really good job. The answer is yes. I mean, it's a reality. You have to be savvy. Trump is fucking this guy is, I thought some of the things he did were really just big mistakes. And he turned out to be right. Like when he went so hard against the media, this guy's the ultimate counterpuncher, right? And, with his tweets, I mean, he'll call out a grandma who says something. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? I'm like, Mr. President, you got some fucking better shit to go. Like a grandma said one bad thing. It's like that fucking grandmother should go rot in hell. She's a loser. She's a fucking loser. Loser grandma, right? It's like no one gets away with it with the guy, right? But on some level, you can't argue with success. My wife was approached very early on. She was like, she's a libertarian. My wife's a libertarian, right? And she was just very pro-Trump because it was more like, for me, it was more anti-Hillary.
Was she before you pro-Trump?
Oh, yeah.
So you came later on. You supported her later on.
I never was pro-Hillary. It was never a shot, but listen, here's the thing. So
Day one when election started, you have 16 candidates on the Republican side. Who were you excited
I thought he would
about?
implode. I did not think
Who did you think had a chance? Day one.
I thought Jeb Bush would make it simply because the money
$140 million
would buy out. I thought the family was pretty corrupt, and I thought they would sort of push it through, right? But when it was a certain point in time, it became pretty obvious, right? And then here was the interesting when the tape came out, right, with the whole thing, grabbed the pussy, and then he just went fucking harder at them. I was like, oh my God, this guy. But we live in a different world. And you know what? Here's what Trump is incredibly great at. He's incredibly great at crystallizing simple thoughts for people to understand.
So true.
Make America great again. He uses words. He repeats them again and again. I personally think that if he improved his communication like this much, he'd be even more effective. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know. This guy's being attacked like no other president has ever been attacked. So I wonder what I would do if I was being attacked as much as him. Like, I wonder if I would almost like say, even if the grandma from freaking Omaha, fuck you, grandma, don't you dare say, because this guy's under assault. If Trump rescued 10 babies out of the, say, he slaughtered them afterwards, or he's going to, he did it for evil purpose. So it's pretty fucked up, And all I care about is this. I'm very concerned about things like the budget deficit. Mm-hmm. Like this, I have real concerns here. Not for me, honestly. Things have a way of saying they kick the can down the road. I don't think it's going to impact our lives, but I think it's going to impact our kids' lives. I think the things that are happening right now for millennials and that people are coming after, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do with this massive deficit that keeps growing. And
does it really concern you?
It does concern me.
What part of it? The debt we owe to China, or is it more just
China,
the total deficit?
Just the total debt.
22 trillion.
Debt, because I don't see, I think I'm a pretty smart guy mathematically. I don't really see a way out of it without some realignment of currency and global trade, meaning if somehow something happened with the U.S. dollar, but that would be have a cataclysmic effect. So I don't really see how it ends. The problem is that, it's almost like too big to fail.
Mm-hmm. Is America too big to fail? Is that kind of how you're looking at it?
Yeah. So they keep printing more money, right? And the Fed expands the balance sheet, right? And they sort of kick the can down the road. And I guess the idea is that if the economy grows so rapidly, then by cutting taxes, the economy grows rapidly. So that even though it's lower tax rates, the overall intake is much lower. That's the theory, and eventually you pay down the deficit.
So how much are you following right now with the 5G thing that's taking place with Huawei, with China, with all that? Are you following any of that stuff?
Of course I do, yeah.
So what do you think about that? What do you think about so let me ask the question in a different way. So you got the tariffs that's taking place, right? Whether it's China, obviously Mexico tariff was more about the immigration and the wall.
Right.
Canada tariff was accidental because he was trying to get it to China. He wasn't really dealing with Canada. But this tariffs, is the issue really tariffs to you? Is it really 5G? Is it really, what is the thing that you're most concerned about?
Biggest thing, okay, so I think he's 100% right that the trade deals that were cut for the U.S. over the last 20, 30 years were just fucking asinine. I mean, honestly.
Both sides, by the way.
Almost like it was out of guilt, like to give away the store like that, right? That being said, I think with China, the bigger problem is the theft of IP, a lack of respect for intellectual property and theft of IP, and especially, high-tech stuff. And I think that's a really major issue. So it's not just about trade imbalances, so to speak, that, and I've done business in China and I've spoken in China. And by the way, one thing you could say about Chinese people, they're fucking peaceful. When did they attack anybody? Never. They don't attack people. And so look at it. They're not a military, even though they're building up the military. When has China had committed a war? They've been attacked. They've never really attacked people. So they're kind of a peaceful, they commit economic war in some respect. Like I've been around Africa where they're very aggressive in buying stuff and they don't always treat the countries. Let's say they don't always, they invest in a country. It's more about grabbing out than putting back. At least that's the narrative that I hear from countries, and I don't have the proof of it. It seems like they sort of are pulling out resources and not really building infrastructure. So they build infrastructure that's only robust enough to last as long as the last piece of metal comes out, then it collapses on itself, right? So it's not long-term infrastructure. But the big thing I see with China is that they are stealing intellectual property. And I think that's especially in the high-tech era, I think that's the big danger. And without that, some check being put into place, I think it's a huge issue. I think that Trump is right, and I think he's the first president to stand up. I don't think this spirals out of control much. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think it's going to end up in a full-blown long-term trade war. I think there'll be a reset. I think they'll come to terms within the next 6 months. I really do.
You think so?
I think so. I do.
What do you think will be the cornerstone of that taking place? Like, what's going to cause that?
Well, I think that, listen, Trump's, he had a classic statement, by the way. His classic statement was like, he said to the Democrats, like almost like, could you at least fucking lie for me and pretend to be on my side so I can negotiate more effectively? Like a lot of what Trump does is posturing and negotiating and threatening and basic negotiations, right? You have to kind of see through some of his tactics, right? And I don't believe, I think he's smart enough to know, I know Mnuchin, I met him before in person. Mm-hmm. He's not surrounded by idiots. He's surrounded by smart people. Everyone knows that, the tariffs over the long term really are not a good thing. Okay, but that being said, as a short-term punitive measure, as a negotiating tactic, I think it's important. I think he's doing the right thing because I don't think it was sustainable. With China, what they were doing is they're essentially exporting like crazy, putting up barriers. They have tariffs. They have barriers to import there, right? And if you want to do business there, you have to essentially it's got to be operated by Chinese company, and that means your technology becomes open. They steal the technology.
That's the whole Made in 25, Made in China 2025 plan that they have.
That's a big problem.
So what do you think about the whole speed of 5G, the fact that EU, U.S., South Korea, Australia is not going to have it ready till 2025, and China is saying they're going to have it ready by 2020?
I think that, number one, the 5G, right, it's based on the phones have to be ready. Apple won't even have a phone ready, I think, until 2020, right? So like right now on my phone, I have this thing, it's called 5G is fucking scam, 5GE.
You know what it's called? You know
5G evolution. It's nothing.
It's nothing. It's 4G. It's just
one day I'm like, what the fuck, 5G? Where'd this come from, right? So from what I heard, right, they're rolling out a couple of cities this year. I think the mass adoption is next year, right? That's supposedly what
You
they
talk
say.
about China?
No, in the U.S. The U.S. is next year, I hear.
U.S. is saying they're not going to be ready 5G till 2025.
Really? Because I read an article. Is that true? I read an article that said that they were testing it, I thought, in
19 cities.
in
But
next
small
year.
cities.
I thought it was LA. No, I thought it was LA. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, the challenge you're having is with the trees because it's not going through trees. So China, the way they came out with the 5G, so the biggest concern they have with 5G right now is U.S. If we land 5G contract, because we got 4G, that increased GDP by $100 billion. They're projecting 5G technology, if U.S. gets it first, is 3 million jobs and $500 billion of GDP goes up if we get 5G. And so a big part of this, when you're looking at it, is saying, Trump is a pretty brilliant negotiator. Why is he banning Huawei? Is he banning Huawei because they potentially could come into the U.S. Economy and compete and take some of the market share away from Apple? You got 3 poster childs for each country. You got Apple is U.S., Samsung is South Korea, Huawei is China.
So I think the problem with Huawei, is that pronounce it Huawei?
Huawei, that's the right way. Yeah, Huawei.
Huawei. Okay. So the problem with that, I think originally was that there was a suspicion that they were embedding code in their appliance, their phone, their computers that would allow China to basically spy, tap in. So it was a big issue. So it started with not allowing it to be involved in government organizations.
Sure.
That's how it started,
Sure.
right? And then it spread from there, right? So I think that's the big concern is that there's things going on with their technology. They're embedding stuff
believe
in
that?
there. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I think the Chinese are surveillance. I think it's a culture. If you go to, have you been to China recently?
No.
It's fucking, they have shit there. Like, they have technology all over this fucking cameras and shit, like facial recognition stuff. Like, I saw this thing. It's like almost like the future where like they can track you like in real time. They had this thing where a guy commits a crime. It was like a mock thing. And the police got the guy like within 15 minutes because like they tracked the guy through facial. It's fucking like Minority Report. Like, that movie, right? It's crazy shit.
Let me ask you this, though. Do you think U.S., because iPhone has 900 million active phones.
Right.
Out of the 900 million active phones, 300 million roughly is out of China. Don't you think China kind of says, well, wait a minute, you're spying on us through Apple. Don't you think they can potentially say, well, maybe U.S. is China, spying on us. Why are you so worried about us, spying on you?
It's a good question. So I think that the perception, and by the way, who fucking knows? I'm not a tech guy. I'm not a coder. I fuck around. I have coders here, right? I always fuck around. I walk by and I say, oh, you left out a fucking colon there. Put down. I see what the fuck is on their screen. It's like the fucking Matrix, right? Like, what are you doing? You left out an apostrophe. Yeah, the fucking thing never worked, These guys are brilliant young guys, right? And they code and stuff. And it's something that I never want to learn, right? It's like, I came too late. Was born too early for that shit, right? But I think that who knows what back doors and trap doors. The thing is, the difference, I believe, is that there's much more transparency in the U.S., and maybe I'm fucking naive, okay? Maybe for all I know, the NSA has got a trap door built into every fucking phone. And listen, about the whole thing with the Stuxnet virus they put around the world with Israel, they did to like be able to shut people's electric off. So, I would always say like, my problem with the whole Russian meddling thing was, I was like, we fucking meddling everyone. I mean, just fuck. So Russia's meddling. What elections? We go back to Iran, Mogadishu, right? We fucking like installed people in all over the world. I don't think that's a terrible thing. Like the U.S. has a foreign policy, and they're actually trying to exert their will. So this whole thing that Russian, like, we're trying to interfere. No fucking shit. They're trying to interfere with our election. They've always tried, and I think we always try to do it around the world too. So I don't think it's like the end of the world. I think what happened was, frankly, it's the old fucking the best defense is a good offense, because Hillary, the dirty dossier, she says, fuck, let's deflect it away from me because I had this done by, Fusion GPS with frickin' Christopher Steele. So let's just say Trump colluded with Russia because this takes the burden off me, but now it's boomeranging back. So I don't really...
It's a scary thought right there. It's going to be very scary when it comes... So then would you rather have a private company spy on you or the government spy on you if you had a choice?
A private company.
Private, because it's purely profit-based.
I think, by the way, you fucking read that. I never really looked at it that way, just intuitively. I answered it intuitively, but you're right. That's because, I guess like their own selfish interest.
It's like a prostitute.
They just want to sell me shit.
Honest relationship.
They want to
$100, boom. That's it. There's no games.
They just want to fucking sell me shit, put the right things in front of me. I always get nervous about, we laugh. Like my wife and I will talk about something, and next day it's fucking like on my advertisement. I'm like, oh my God, I got nervous. I turned off my Alexa. I know it's probably stupid, but I turned the fucking
A lot of
bitch
people are
off.
doing that, by the way.
I got nervous because I was like, what the fuck? Is this woman listening to me?
Someone's listening to me the entire time.
And you know what? Like, and here's the thing, right? There is going to be a point, and I think it's coming soon, where like artificial intelligence really is going to, that moment of singularity, they call it, right? I think Raymond Kurzweil was coined that term. Maybe he didn't, but this idea that computers will become more powerful than people, and then who knows what the fuck's going to happen then, right? But you think about it, I rely on it. I'm sure you do too, right? My phone, right? We're all over, right? And it's a scary thing because you are. I mean, think back before. So back in it's not that long ago when like we were in a non-digital world. Like I grew up in a non-digital world. It used to be a great thing. You'd wait. You probably remember this when it was like you were younger and you wait for a movie to come on TV. It was a big deal, like on be in the theaters. And if you missed it there, you wait 2 years and you see it like a Sunday night. And now it's like everything's instant.
That's right.
It's like a different fucking world, right? And here's another thing. So like, there's always unintended consequences for a lot of stuff. Like, for example, like social media. You brought it up. It's a good point. So, what do you think about social media? On some level, it's great because on one point, it gives every person a voice. But it also gives every asshole a voice, right? There's a lot of assholes out there. But here's the thing. I think the problem is more the algorithms that companies like Facebook use where they show you more and more of what you like. So you end up in a fucking echo chamber. And I really wish that I wish sometimes I'm starting to really not like my news feed because it's the same shit. I don't want to see people who always agree with me. I want to listen every day. I read the New York Times. I'll watch, I don't watch CNN because it's fucking nonsense, right? But I'll watch one of the regular mainstream news channels and I'll watch Fox News because I want to see both sides. I want to hear what everyone is saying. I don't want to be in an echo chamber. What happens on social media is if you start clicking on certain things, he likes that. They show you more of that. And before you know it, it almost evolves.
You disagree. You don't like that.
I don't like that.
They're trying to change that, by the way.
I think the problem is it puts you in an echo chamber. You start to think everyone agrees with you and they don't. There's a lot of really smart people who are liberal out there, really normal, smart people. I don't agree with them. I love to debate with them about it, but people are entitled to have their views and have healthy debate. And what happens with social media is that you end up in an echo chamber, and that's dangerous, where you're only seeing the shit. And I've seen it happen to myself, my wife's newsfeed, and she had to almost detach from it because she ended up in this ultra conservative not by choice, by accident. I think that's the big problem.
Yeah, it's going to be funny to see what takes place here moving forward.
What do you think in terms of the next election? How do you think social media plays into the upcoming election?
Well, I mean, I think Ron Paul changed the game. I think it's all about Ron Paul. Ron Paul changed the game in 2004. 2004, he raised $6 million on MySpace in 24 hours. It was a Guinness Book of World Record. Ron Paul, 69-year-old man, raises $6 million on MySpace in 24 hours. Obama sees this saying, if this guy can raise $6 million in 24, I'm going to raise $2 billion to be a president, become a two-term president. Look what happened there, right? So I think it's going to play a very big role. And it's funny how Facebook is facing so much backlash now where they're being forced to be more transparent. And people are upset to say that, hey, Facebook is not going to show what Trump's campaign is going to be doing, all this stuff. And they're kind of being open about it because they're forced to do that. And Trump's kind of holding them accountable. A lot of people are meeting with Facebook to see, are you guys going to be open or not? But I don't think it's going to be much different. Look at this, a couple guys that are coming up on the Democrat side, right? They're coming up to become candidates. They're just doing social media better than the rest of the guys. Andrew Yang is coming out of nowhere. This guy's talking about universal basic income, saying, let's give everybody $1,000 a month, $1.5 trillion a year.
Why not?
Is going to improve the economy. Let's just print money and give it to them.
Whether they deserve it or not, right?
What do you think about that?
I think it's fucking the most stupid thing I've ever fucking heard. I mean, listen, no matter what, life is and some things are very simple. If you give people something for nothing, they don't fucking value it, okay? It's the same thing with, I sell information products, right? If you underprice something, I've actually tried, I want to be a nice guy. I'm going to just give this away very cheap. People won't use it because they don't invest their money. They don't, whatever. They're not invested in it, right? Versus charging a higher price. And people say, fuck, I put money. Well, I better do this. And I think by, giving people money is idiotic. Okay. I always, by the way, my parents, I grew up in a very liberal household, right? Obviously, I had very different views than my parents growing up, but
even growing up.
Oh my God, yeah.
Even growing up.
From as far back, I'll tell you, Sam. So
what caused it?
Well, I'll tell you a story. So back when I was 12, my brother, He's a fucking commie, right? And he went to this camp that was like a communist fucking camp, right? And I idolized my older brothers 3 years old. I was like, I want to go to the camp too. I didn't really know what it was about. It was like a socialist fucking work camp, right? So I go there, right? And they say, okay, first thing you got to do is you got to share. You got to put your money in. I'm like, why? Said, because we all pool our money. I'm like,
They didn't say that.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm like, I don't want to do that. They fucking I got punished. They put me in a fucking like a lockdown situation, like, because I wouldn't share my fucking money. And I was like, I was green. Like, why the fuck should I share my money with other people? Like, it's like, and not that I think I even worked for it because I was already doing magic shows and shit. But I was like, I was so appalled. They threw me out. I actually I had to leave the camp early. I got thrown out. And so I always, as far back as I can remember, I always liked nice things. I always was not scared to work for nice things. And I think when my parents were amazing people, I love my parents to death, but I noticed some things about them. Like, number one, brilliant, hardworking, educated, and fucking broke. So I'm like, what? Wait a second. I'm like, okay, so wait a second. So you can go to school, get degrees. They both are CPAs. My mom's now even a lawyer.
Mom and dad both CPAs.
Both CPA. My mom was a CPA back in the 50s, like in Mad Men. You remember, when women weren't in the workplace, right? She was there.
CPA in the 50s?
Oh, yeah. And she was rocking and rolling. Brilliant woman, right? My dad was a CPA. And I remember when I was like 11 years old, I wanted a dirt bike. And I said, I want a dirt bike. It was like $120. And they said, we can't afford it. I'm like, what the fuck? What do you mean? They're like, you guys are fucking accountants. What do you mean you can't afford it? Like, we can't. My mom said, let me show you our budget. And she actually showed me I was like, fuck. I was appalled. I was like, that's all you fucking, I was like, I felt like, how dare you?
How old did you say you were? I
was 12.
12 years
11 or 12, something like that, right? And I couldn't have this dirt bike. And the same thing happened with an electric guitar I wanted. I played the guitars. And I was like, fuck. And it just sort of, locked in this idea with me that there's something else. Now, let's talk about entrepreneurship, right? You're a really well-known, well-respected entrepreneur. We could talk all day, the two of us, right? But I want to talk about entrepreneurship. Tell me about how you had a big break, right? So you go to the army, you're fucking madman, right? And I respect you. Anyone that serves in the military like you, that I just fucking kudos for you, right? That's great, right? I mean that from the bottom of my heart, right? But then you come out, right? And tell me your career and how that really started as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I got out. I met I wanted to be a bodybuilder. That's what it was. I was going to go be the Middle Eastern Arnold. I was going to go win Mr. Olympia, go into Hollywood, marry Kennedy, be a governor. That was the plan, right? That's the route I was going to take. Met a girl at Venice Beach, California. She was a broker at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter.
Okay.
And we'd go out. She would always pick me up in a different car. And finally I said, how do you make your money? She says, I'm the advisor to Laker players. That's what I do. I'm a Series 7, 66, the whole nine. I said, how can I do it? She said, well, you need to have a 4-year degree. Morgan doesn't hire without a degree. And I was looking for JT Marlin, but JT Marlin wasn't out there, right? So I said, how do I start working here?
A boiler room reference.
That's right. So I said, let me go look for these guys, see if I can find something. So I took my resume. On the cover of the resume, I put a joke. And on the bottom of the joke, I put, if you're laughing right now, this is exactly how clients are going to feel when they invest with me. If you want somebody like this part of your team, give me a call. By the way, my resume had the following: Haagen-Dazs, Bob's Big Boy, Burger King, military Bally's. That's no 4-year degree, no 2-year degree.
Come on.
Military helps out.
That's impressive, yeah.
So I was 21 years old. I faxed it to 100 different places. 30 people called me back. 15 said, this is hilarious, but you don't qualify. 15 gave me an interview. And eventually I got 3 offers. I started off with Morgan Stanley Dean Witter out of Glendale. So 9/11 happens. Right. A day before 9/11 is my first day with Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. This is a Monday, 9/10. Start off with them, get my Series 7, 66, 3126 life and health. I go that route. And start selling. Next thing you know, I go to Transamerica. I'm with them for 7.5 years. Then October of 2009, we start our own insurance company. 66 agents out of Northridge, California. 66 agents,
so
Northridge, California.
Your own insurance company.
Fully, October of 2009. I am 30 at the time, okay? So I look at the marketplace. I said, okay, no one's using social media in financial services. They're afraid of it. They're worried about it because you can't use it. You can't post anything. Everything with BD's got to get approved. Broker-dealers are not approving these emails. All these things they're talking about. But life is still flexible.
Right.
Securities is not. I said, let's go do life. So we eliminate a lot of a securities gig and we strictly focus on life and annuities. So we start off out of one office, Northridge, California. And the next thing you know, we grew from 66 agents to today, 10,500 agents, 49 states. Oh. De La Hoya is one of our investors. Gabriel Brenner's another one. Atalaya Fund out of New York is another one. It's a $2 billion fund. We raise it. Our convention's coming up in the next 6 weeks. Keynote speakers, Billy Bean.
We got to stop. We got to stop down. I got to go back. All right. You have to tell, okay, you owe it to my people here. How the fuck did you, I want to know how, let's break down your strategy, right? If you could, let's break it down. So like, I always think that like, while it might seem like, how the fuck did this guy do it? Like it's in the end, there's always, you did some things that are duplicatable strategies. So
100%.
Let's slow it down. So tell me, so you started in 2009?
2009, October of 2009.
And how much money did it take you to start?
$600,000.
$600,000. Yeah. Did you borrow any, or did you use
Zero?
Your own money. So
Yep.
you took the money you earned from financial services. You rolled the fucking. Now, was that like your last dollar, or did you like put it all on the line, or did you have some more in reserve?
I probably had a little bit more, but I said I'm going all in.
You put the bulk of your money.
I put the bulk of my money in. Yeah.
And you were how old at the time?
29, 30.
Okay, and married at this point?
I got married 3 months prior to that.
No kids yet.
No kids yet.
Got it. Okay, good. Great time, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people watching, or in that, you can, it's almost as you get a bit older, you can always, do things in life. But when you're that age, no kids, you fucking can afford to take risks, right?
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened, though. You asked the question, strategy that's going to be transferred to other people. This is one of them. I studied the industry. I literally sat down and I read every single thing I could on the industry, everything. LIMRA, every reports, demographic, who they are able to recruit, who they're not, what clients are not getting any kind of service. So I looked at the whole do not call list. Is it doing good things to the marketplace? Is it doing bad things to the marketplace when it came out in November of 2003? I'm looking at everything. The average agent at the time was a 57-year-old white male. Today, the average agent is a 59-year-old white male. So I'm looking at the market. Oh, yeah, insurance. I'm looking at the market. They don't know how to tap into the Latino community. They don't know how to tap into women selling insurance. It's mainly men selling insurance. They don't know how to tap into millennials. They're not fully understanding social media. They're afraid of social media. So I wrote a book. I wrote a book about specifically what our strategy was. That was the 5 points.
So step one, in other words, you didn't just leap. You actually did some research. You identified a niche in the marketplace, and you had a strategy. You model someone. And then, typically, if there's some model that you used, then you improved on it, or was your model the culmination of all your research, basically?
No, my model was a model of 5 different people that I looked at.
You took what you liked from one, from another,
absolutely.
Combined. And
I will tell you what book had a big impact on my business was Blue Ocean Strategy. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know if you read Blue Ocean Strategy.
No.
Highly recommend.
I'll read it.
100% recommend, especially now you're doing your podcast, and what you highly, highly recommend the Blue Ocean Strategy formula.
Tiffany, make a note.
4.5 million copies sold. The guy that wrote it is W.C. Chen. You will not be able to put it down.
Right.
So I read the book and I'm like, okay, this strategy makes a lot of sense. So we need to eliminate, we need to decrease, increase, create. Perfect. This is what it's making sense. This is the direction we're going to go. And I looked at it in insurance. At the top, everybody was Caucasian. We need some people that can connect with millennials and minorities. I said, that's the direction we're going. So we started growing. By the way, today we're 54% Latino and 51% women. Our number one earner is a woman.
Interesting. You started with how many agents?
66.
66. How'd you start with 66 people?
I was already known in the marketplace in the San Fernando Valley area.
So you opened up your door.
Like imagine New York is San Fernando.
Right.
Okay. So in San Fernando, they knew what I was doing.
So you opened up, you had 60 desks with agents there, or they working from home, or they were just an office, 60 agents, 60 phones?
Look at it as a co-op banker. You got 60 realtors working with you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So I had 66 agents.
All right. And you took those from people knew you in the industry. So you basically
These are guys I had trained for 7.5 years.
So you had a following.
Yep. I had a following.
Got it. Okay. So you start with 66,
66 agents.
And does it just right out of the gate take off like a rocket?
No, not at all. No, not at all. Because right out of I got sued on October 29th of 2009 from a $400 billion company, Aegon. October 29th.
For what?
For potentially taking clients. We didn't take any clients. 7,000 clients stayed.
Interference.
We moved.
Cautious interference.
Yes. Right. Okay. August, which is 9-10 months later, we settled. I've never been sued in my life. That was the only time I got sued.
Wish I could say that. Keep going.
Yeah. So August, we settled. We finalized. We started moving. And from there, the strategy was I'm going to start with California. Then I'm going to go Florida. Then I'm going to go Texas. Then I'm going to go Illinois. Then I'm going to grow and expand.
Right.
So we went 1 office, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we're over 100 offices nationwide.
What was your biggest pivot? Like you had to, typically when you're doing that, you're you're starting and things are going well. You make some little move, and was there one move that you made?
100%.
What was that
I can't
move?
even believe you asked that question. Yeah. So
it's always,
so I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the comp plan, and a company's comp structure attracts certain kind of people. Your comp plan, whatever way you pay your people,
1,000%,
it attracts exactly. So I'm looking at it saying, what kind of people does this comp plan attract? I changed my comp plan maybe 100 times. Maybe 100 times, could be even more. I kept changing. We're changing this month. We're testing, so I test. Finally, I came out with this comp plan in September. I don't know what, September 14 or 15? 15, I want to say, September. Right. And I called it the Great Equalizer Bonus Program. And it was 5 tiers. And I said, we're going to try it for 1 month, then 2 months, then 3 months. The next thing you know, a guy that had only been with us for a year made 220, then 640, then $1 million.
There you go, right.
Then he made 3.3 million in 2.5, 3 years. And everyone's like, wait a minute, what the hell? So then everybody followed this comp. So the way you set up the comp gets the behavior that you want. There are a lot of companies out there doing that. I could not agree with you.
I always, by the way, when I do a lot of consulting, right, for sales forces, I say some of the biggest mistakes are made in the compensation, because if you have a comp and it's flawed, it disincentivizes people to work, or just to have a few clients and stop, right? So you have to almost make sure that someone just can't open a few big clients and then rest on their laurels, right? And then likewise, also, you want to have people that are tied to the company you build loyalty with residual income, right? So it's sort of this kind of dance you're doing with both. So you hit on this comp plan, right? People start making a lot of money, and they just almost start like pouring in. It's showing up your daughter for work, basically.
Yeah, and then at the same time in 2013, I was a private guy. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to talk about my belief, communist, how I was raised, Iran, all this. I'm a private guy. I live my life. I'm going to work. I'm going to do my thing, libertarian. Leave me alone. Let me make my money. Just don't bother me. I kind of started noticing that we're living in a time where everybody's naked. You can't hide today. It takes 2 minutes for somebody to know you're Republican. Right. That's all. You got to go on your Twitter account, Facebook account. Okay, this is what Jordan Belfort believes in. Got it. Next. Boom. Right? So I said, rather than trying to live a private life, I'm going to start creating content. So I was making content strictly privately for our agency, but I started doing it publicly.
Right.
Started a YouTube channel called it Patrick Bet David. 2 years later, changed it to Valuetainment. And today we got 1.3, 1.4 million subscribers, over 1 billion minutes watched.
Tell me this one thing you have this one major hit, right? The 90 was the 90.
That was on Facebook.
Tell me what this is. The 90.
Yeah. So I put the video on YouTube. It's called the Life of an Entrepreneur 90 Seconds.
Bingo. Right. Which I fucking, by the way, as soon as I heard, I'm like, bingo. That's like just a catchy thing.
Title, right?
Yeah. So tell me what was it?
Yeah, so we put the video up, and what's so crazy, the day we shot the video is the day my father-in-law died, and I went inside and my wife is crying. And I'm like, I got to cancel this shoot. I don't even know how to handle my wife. I've never seen my wife lose, her father. So she's a mess. She says, I said, I'm not shooting. She says, no, babe, you go do your thing, guys. I have the camera, guys. 8 people are outside, 6 o'clock in the morning. We're trying to set this whole thing up. She says, no, go do it. I know you guys have been planning this. That's okay. So we went and shot. I'm just like, I'm a mess the entire day. My mind is on the family, so I'm shooting. And we came back. These guys did a phenomenal job. We put the video up on YouTube. I said, let's see how it's going to do. We called it the best motivational video 2015.
I love it.
I go to sleep. I wake up. It's only 2,000 views. What a flop, So then we go upload it October 31st at 3:13 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I uploaded on Facebook, titled Life of an Entrepreneur in 90 Seconds. And then we go out there, a Halloween trick or treat with my kids.
Right.
2 hours later, it's got 300,000 views. I go to sleep, wake up, 5 million views. A week later, 10 million, and then all of a sudden, 31 million views. So it just went crazy.
By the way, it's a great feeling, isn't it? It's like that. It's like
especially when you don't expect it.
I know, it's a defining moment, right?
Yeah.
Then you took that, right, and then you ended up leveraging it to a book, right?
I leveraged it to a book.
So what the title of the book was?
Life of an Entrepreneur, 90 pages.
90 pages, great. And I'm sure the book was a huge bestseller, right?
We did well. The book did well, yeah.
And how did that, in terms of your business, did it impact your business per se? Was it a separate thing? Like is your personal brand integrated into your business?
No. So here's what I do. You will never hear me do a call to action with my following to go into what I'm doing personally. Never. You will never hear me. Matter of fact, let me give you what took place a month ago. I told the Valuetainment followers, I'm going to put a 3-day conference once we cross 1 million subs. Right. So we crossed 1 million subs. And I put a 3-day conference in Dallas. We had 2 months to promote. I said, we're going to do it in Dallas. To my agency in the insurance company, I said, you are not allowed to come. So I put a conference the following week. I rented out the Cowboy Stadium. I put a conference the following week so it wouldn't, confuse each other. So Valuetainment audience was 1 week, then the PHP audience was the following week. We had people show up from 43 different countries to the Valuetainment conference, and it was great. 3-day conference. I had Peter Guber there. I had Phil Heath there. It was a great conference. So now our conference, PHP, is 5 weeks from now. I have President Bush there. I have Kobe Bryant come in. Jordan, that's going to be the one in 5 weeks. That's at the Mirage. Right. So yeah, I've separated the two because I want the integrity of both. That's worked very well. And both audiences have a lot of respect that there's no commingling going on.
2 questions. We're over. Yes. I'm going to go a few more minutes.
Lead the way. Yeah, lead the way.
Questions. We're over, but you're an interesting dude. I love talking to you. So I'd love you to come back again. Couple of questions. Number one, for young entrepreneurs. Yeah. Right. What's the best? Like, not like what industry reaches. Just what's the advice that you would give? Like, to a young guy, 20, 25 years old, right, wants to go out, get rich, build a great life. What advice, just overall advice, would you give them?
It's very easy for me. It's shadowing. Go shadow somebody. Go shadow somebody that's doing very good.
Proximity is power, right?
Not just proximity. Proximity is, hey, Jordan, can I take you out to lunch and spend time with you? That could be proximity. I'm talking about
sticking by.
Hey, can I work for Jordan? Be your right-hand guy. Be the movie American Gangster. You see Frank Lucas sees his boss, shadows him for 10 years. Then he becomes... You see this in business. You see this in sports. You see this. Steve Kerr is shadowing Phil Jackson. Then he shadows Popovich. Now he's the best coach in the NBA outside of Popovich. There's an element of shadowing. So you got to find somebody locally where you say, look, I want to go work for this guy. And I'm going to spend 3 years with this guy and learn from him.
So the idea is that, like, let's say, you're a born entrepreneur, right? It's in your blood.
Yeah.
But as part of that, like, there's a certain period of sacrifice to really, if you find the right someone that you can really, kind of really tap into, right, and really learn from and grow with. There's nothing wrong with spending a certain amount of time there and really
absolutely not.
Those grooming years, right? I think a lot of people skip over that. They don't want to sit there and kind of be subservient to someone else. They even think of something, if you're like, there's an entrepreneurial mindset to go work for someone else, but they're not mutually exclusive. No, it's okay to do it if there's an end game in mind, right? That you're not looking to be a lifelong servitude.
Yeah.
But to tap into whatever you need, but then eventually when the time is right and you know what you need to know, you have the connections, the respect, you go out on your own. Is that sort of?
Absolutely. I'm all about, if you shadow the right person, and then for me, get to a point where you can have a power position with this person. Get to a point where I'm talking to the person that's absolutely ambitious driven. Sure. I'm not talking to the guy that's wants to do a role playing type of position. I'm talking to somebody that says, I want to go be somebody and I want to go make tens, if not hundreds, chase the big dollars, but I want to be able to do it with somebody. You find like a lot of times somebody goes and works for a guy who's doing very well. He's known in the community, say the whoever of different cities. Every city has somebody that everybody wants to work for. You go work for that guy. Then it comes to a point where you're like, I'm going to go do my own thing. It may not make sense for you to go do your own thing. There's a lot of people right now being billionaires, being entrepreneurs, not entrepreneurs.
In certain industries, by the financial service, you could tap into infrastructure. It's easier.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Absolutely. Even Ballmer, look what Ballmer's worth, $30-40 billion. He never started anything. He worked with Gates. So positioning is critical, knowing where your strengths are. This whole idea about I can be that guy. You can't be everybody. You got to know it very early. You cannot be everybody. There are certain people you and I cannot be like. There are certain personality traits.
No doubt.
No doubt about it. So the sooner you understand.
Identifying your own strengths and accepting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So style, like I find, let's just say if I relate to your style, I'm like, you know what? I'm like his style. Then I got to work for a guy like you. Say a different style of selling. You go look at a guy's style selling that's very proper, you got to go to that guy. Somebody that fits your style that's killing it, then go shadow that person. And a few years later, you can make some decisions on where you want to go.
I think that, one of the things is important to point out with that is that when you're modeling someone, you don't have to necessarily take every aspect of them. You can extract the best, right? Because I made that mistake. Because you're right, I've done that, and I did that, and I actually had some guy, some amazing traits, but he had some bad ones too, and I didn't realize I was young and naive, and I took sort of the whole organism. You can actually have 1, 2, 3 people, and you had 5. You said you had 5 entities, and you sort of pulled the best from each one, started your company, pivoted a couple of times, boom, took off. So I think the key is that when you do what you said, because I think it's a great thing to do, but you don't have to always take everything from someone. You could take only the best traits and the ones that fit you and sort of leave, because no one's perfect. Everyone's got their flaws and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, one of the best advices I got many, many years ago was, sons and fathers or daughters and mothers go through 3 phases. First, they idolize, then they demonize, then they humanize. So idolize, demonize, humanize. Oh my gosh, my dad's my hero. Dad, you're an asshole. You know nothing. You don't even understand what I'm going through. Oh my gosh, my dad's not perfect. He's a human being just like me. So yeah, anybody you work with, you're going to go through it. And the goal is to eventually get to the humanized phase, because no one is going to be perfect.
And last question, right? What do you think about 2020? Who do you think's going to win? And how do you view does it concern you if the country takes a rapid lurch to the left? Or, what do you think's going to happen?
If you look at the pendulum, just go. I'm a trend guy. I'm a data predictive analytics guy. This is why I'm bringing Billy Bean to our conference, because I want to know data. I love baseball because it's stats.
Right.
I'm a stats guy. So president today is Republican. Okay, Trump. Prior to him, Obama, Democrat. Prior to him, Bush, Republican. Prior to him, Clinton, Democrat. Prior to him, Bush, Republican. Prior to him, you can go Reagan, and then Carter, and then Nixon, and then so you can go back and look at Ford and Nixon and John F. Kennedy.
But there's 2 terms versus 1 term.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So if you're asking a 2-term question, I don't think the left has got a solid candidate. I don't think Joe Biden's going to be able to face off with Trump. I don't see that. I think Bernie stands a better debate than him, debate-wise. Remember, not philosophy. I think Biden may be a better Democratic president than Sanders would, but today personality matters, energy matters, being able to move and rally. Every time Biden was in Iowa, they didn't show up to his camp, but Sanders know how to rally people. So Sanders was even better at rallying than Hillary was.
No doubt. Well, listen, she was a flawed
super delegate. She had it though.
Right.
She had the super delegate.
It was stolen basically. Let me ask you a question. If there's one last question, right? You're a smart guy, right? If there was one piece of advice you could give to Donald Trump, if there's one thing you could change, what do you think that would make him even more effective?
One thing that he would change.
What style? One is there anything that you would change or not?
Here's what I would tell you. Okay. So for me, it is very hard to give advice on personality that's worked for somebody for 74 flipping years. There's nothing you can tell this guy. He's going to sit there and say, do you know how many broads I've been with? Do you know how many billions I've touched? Do you know how many people I've had dinner with? Do you know what kind of building? You have no clue who the hell you are to give me advice. I really think he's not a guy that takes advice from anybody. I fully believe that. I don't think he's an advice guy. I think he processes with people. Like I think Hope Hicks was a good process. I think Sarah Huckabee was a good person. I think Kellyanne Conway was a good person to listen to him. But
so he takes it in and uses his own internal mechanism.
I will give one thing. There's one thing I will say. I will give one thing that in this negotiation that he's doing, I think he's starting to realize the power of 5G, because what it's going to do to self-driving cars and what it's going to do to speed up technology. And we're going to come out with technology better. And the fact that Huawei, out of 188,000 employees, 75,000 of their employees are in R&D, research and development. This 5G thing's going to be bigger than people realize it. So,
I'm glad you brought this up, because I have not focused enough on it. I'm aware of it, right? But I'm actually going to research it, because it's a very.
I think a guy like
it's an important topic. Yeah,
your brain, the way you're wired, like the way you explain Bitcoin, like them, your brain, the way you're wired. If you go down the rabbit hole of Huawei,
I'm going to. Yeah.
You are going. It's going to be like 50 layers. And it's deeper than, by the way, today.
The CEO's daughter, isn't she still under?
She was Meng, the CEO's
in Canada,
daughter.
right?
She got arrested in Canada.
Is she still there, or they released?
No, she's back. But Google dropped the contract. There's 90 days. The most important number there is 206 million phones were sold last year, Huawei. They went from 0 to 206 million in 10 years. They've never sold smartphones. They started in 1987. First time they sold a smartphone was 2009. 206 million they sold last year. Out of the 206 million, 105 is in U.S., 105 is in China, 101 is outside. Google said, we're not letting you use the operating system. So they're going to lose their own
operating. Yeah.
So now they're designing their own operating. So they have to be as he's negotiating right now with China and using all of this stuff, he can probably bully Mexico that he's doing a little bit, and Mexico needs America tremendously. China's got 1.5 billion people. And if they all of a sudden come out, and I know Tim Cook was with Trump a few days ago, if they all of a sudden come out and say, listen, we're banning something you're doing as well. If they come and play that same game, and Huawei is projected, according to Business Insider, it's dropping 30 to 40% of revenues this year projected. They did 108 billion last year. They could drop 30 to 40 billion of revenues this year, Huawei. If Huawei's president Ren, who is friends with the prime minister of China, because Ren used to be part of the Chinese government, the military, if he goes there and says, listen, look what just happened here, and they retaliate against Apple, little bit of this bullying tactic Trump is using could backfire on the economy. And then if the economy, like if Hillary wanted to play a manipulative game today, here's what I would be doing if Hillary wanted to play, like the whole dossier she wrote, this is what I'd be doing if Hillary wanted to play a manipulative game. She would go to China, try to figure out a way to convince them to ban any China companies from doing business with Apple, hurting U.S. economy by 20% because Trump can no longer use, look what the economy is doing today versus when I first got started. If Trump cannot use the economy card, he doesn't get reelected.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think my guess is, back in like the days of Russia and the U.S. had this thing called MAD, mutually assured destruction. I have a suspicion that cooler heads are going to prevail here because China doesn't want an economic war because they're trying to elevate so many people up out of poverty. I've been there, right? Back in the 80s, the story was Japan's going to take over the world. Japan, the rising sun, the movie, right? And what fucking happened? It was like zombie
There's
bags,
a big difference, though. But their population is decreasing.
Fair enough,
yeah.
Right? But there's something that tells me that there's a little bit of puffery, like, you heard about the empty cities being built and, not everything is always what meets the eye. And I think that, honestly, both sides need each other.
100%.
So I don't.
There's no question
I think that my guess is, at the end of the day, maybe I'm wrong. I think cooler heads will prevail. I hope so.
I'll say this final thoughts for you to be thinking about this one. I had a friend, very quiet guy. I was telling this story today when we were driving up here. He was 5'4", 150 pounds.
I love it. I'm fucking bigger than him.
Yeah,
I love the guy already.
He was Saul. His name was Saul. One night, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We're in the parking lot, and a guy pulls up the car, and he turns off we're living in a bad community at that. He pulls up the car, turns off the lights, points a gun at us. He says, "Hey, Holmes, who are you? What you doing, Vato?" And then he looks at me, says, "Oh shit, what's up, Pat?" I said, the guy knew who I was, but he points a gun at my friend Saul. And my friend said, "You don't pull a gun at me. I don't care who you are." He says, "Get out of the car." He says, "No, I say we're good." He says, "No, get out of the car." He said, "I'm not going to punch you while you're in the car." He gets out of the car. He says, "Let me know when you're ready. Just let me know when you're ready." He tells him, warning, "Let me know when you're ready that we're going to fight." He says, "I'm ready." He beats the living shit out of this guy. He's bouncing his head off the ground, scraping his face.
Oh.
Here's the moral of the story. Saul was a quiet guy. Very quiet.
You have to watch
You
out
don't
for
talk to him. China's quiet. That's all I'm saying. So you don't want to get him to the point
peaceful.
where, China, but they're peaceful. But you don't, like, if you go too much, there's no one that's going to take too much. So all I'm suggesting is maybe
Good
a little
advice.
bit of slow rolling is all I'm saying.
Dude, you're a fucking legend, man.
I appreciate it,
And I'd
man.
love
Thank
you to
you.
come back. You're the best.
Oh, man.
All right? It's a pleasure.
Good to be here. Thank you.